Alrighty, welcome. So, my name is Margaret, and I am the board chair of Unfunded List. I have been with Unfunded List for 10 years. I've held many hats in that time. And I am joined today by Dave. He is the founder of Unfunded List. And we're going to chat a little bit about rejection. I know. Everyone loves being rejected, right? In all forms of life. Yes. Has anyone ever been rejected? In a grant proposal? In a grant proposal? Yes? Okay. Keep your hands up. Yep. How many of you have been rejected at least 10 times in a grant proposal? No, just like
I'd like to know about that.
Oh, it's starting off well, folks. Okay, 10 times just generally in grant writing. 100 times.
Just keep your hand up.
Keep your hand up if you've over 100 times. Over 150? 200? 250. We might have a tie here. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, people have been at this a long time. So I think we all know what it feels like to be. See?
Yes.
And so you've also
yes,
had
of course.
the thrill of the win and the feel of rejection, the defeat. It's okay. Oh, yes, online.
So Jen wants to know, does no response mean rejection?
I'm going to go with yeah.
Did the check arrive?
So technically today, I've been told I'm supposed to share the objectives of the next 90 minutes. We are going to discuss the evolution of declination practices and also review the current best practices and what I like to call some ideal best practices by funders in rejection. So I think Dave's going to share a little bit on some history of rejection. He's never been rejected. Never.
I have. I used to be an actor. Yeah, most of the time, yeah. Not for that, I made it to the final callbacks of Home Alone. I went all the way out to Chicago, and I had to do an interview, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, you were in Uncle Buck. And I'm actually really glad I didn't get that one. I don't think I could have delivered the iconic performance that Macaulay did. Also, I didn't end up a child star and with all the problems that come with that. But I did end up getting to do lots of interesting things, including I have had many grant proposals rejected. I've also been in the situation where I had to reject some grant proposals. And actually, I'm fairly curious to know, has anyone in here ever rejected a grant proposal?
Yay!
Oh, wow, we've got a lot of folks who have had to do both things. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have rejected more than 10 grant proposals? Okay.
Nice.
How about anyone has anyone rejected over 100 grant proposals? Not yet. Okay. Not yet. Yeah, they're still young, right? Just send out some. It's Friday. That's the day that they often come, right? So I'm going to tell some stories, and they take place in. We're going to start in 2006, and I'm going to go back to 1906, and then I'm going to go forward in time to 2025. So hopefully you don't get whiplash from all of that. Right, so in 2006, when I had finally abandoned my acting career, and I was what people used to call a baby philanthropist, or a next-gen philanthropist, I was involved in a giving circle made up of other next-gen philanthropists by myself. We were giving away $40,000 grants to Jewish organizations. They brought in a gentleman to do a declination training for us. And I do remember, I remember I had never heard the word declination used that way before. It just sounds nicer than rejection, right? And they weren't training us on how to go down the stairs. In fact, they were training us on how to decline grants. I was a grant writer myself at the time, facing rejection fairly often, so I was pretty interested to attend this training. I lived in DC. I took the train all the way up to New York to go to it. The fellow's name was Dr. Jeffrey Solomon. He wrote a book called The Art of Giving. He is an extremely experienced philanthropist who has definitely rejected well over 100 grant proposals in his career. I'm going to summarize what he said. If you buy Art of Giving, there is a whole chapter that goes over to this in a little bit more detail. I would recommend reading that book if you have a chance. It's one of the better ones about philanthropy written from the giver's perspective. And what he said is when you are rejecting a grant, you want to hand the grantee, the potential grantee, a smooth silver ball. And it should be perfectly smooth, no cracks, certainly no handles on it, no friction whatsoever, ideally covered in some grease or whatever. And you want to be standing on sand when you drop it in front of them, right? And then they will try to pick it up, but they won't be able to. It's greasy, they can't get their hands on it. It's just going to spin around in the sand, and they won't be able to get it up. And they won't be able to give it back to you. Then you can go and focus on your funding while they're there trying to pick up the ball. This is generally best practice for rejection for most of history for modern organized philanthropy. And his reasoning for that is, right, time and resources. And also he felt very strongly that that while tempting to give feedback to rejected folks, the funders should not do it. Dr. Solomon believes that the power dynamics in play make that awkward and ultimately futile. And also he knows from his experience giving grants that he needs to focus on his grantees. The job of the funder is the people they are funding. The folks that they are turning down are important. They've asked them to do work, yes. But ultimately, once they've made that decision to not fund them, the goal of the funder, according to Dr. Solomon, is to get you basically to leave and stop bothering you. If you give them a little bit of feedback and say, oh, we were looking for more sustainable programs, what are they going to say? But we are sustainable, and here's my 10-point PowerPoint. Like, you're trying to end the conversation, and that's the silver ball metaphor, right? And this is, so 2006, I'm in that training, a little bit resentful that I had paid out of pocket for a train ticket to come up to listen to all that. Could have been a Zoom, probably. But no, I appreciated the opportunity to learn from someone with as much experience as him. And eventually I'm a historian's son, and a few years ago I asked my dad to write up some information on the history of philanthropy, which brings me to my next story, which is we're going to go all the way back to 1906. An event that I think is the beginning of modern Western-style organized grant-making. So there's a woman named Olivia Slocum Sage, and her husband was Russell Sage. He died. When he died, he left all of his money to her, and in fact, in his will, he specifically said that he didn't want any of the money to go to charity. Russell was very opposed to the concept of charity. But once you die, you have limited control over what happens to the money. And Olivia decided that she was going to give all of it away. And she had to go to court to overturn the will and all that, and she eventually did. And she's a hero of mine. She named the foundation after him, which is so the Russell Sage Foundation is still giving grants today. But in her original foray into philanthropy, she publishes a letter in several newspapers. It includes her home address. It says, I've recently become the wealthiest woman in the world. I have more money than I would ever be able to spend. If you have something you need money for, please send me a letter. And she receives 34, I forget the exact number, nearly 40,000, more letters than she could possibly read, right? And that's the fundamental problem with issuing an RFP. You're going to get too many requests, right? She made the mistake of being incredibly broad, right, with absolutely no restrictions on it whatsoever. She did not read all of the letters. Some university did some sort of needs study, like decades later, and found most of the requests were for tooth pulling and new shoes, which is very interesting. I think if you were to do the same thing today, you'd still get the teeth requests, but I think most probably fewer requests for shoes. But actually, there was a huge need for footwear back in 1906. So anyway, that experience causes her to formalize. Several other funders had similar experiences around the same time. If you're a tax law historian, then you probably know that in 1907, there was a big tax reform bill that got passed that allowed the establishment of private foundations, and all of those private foundations set up immediately Russell Sage Foundation went into, it's very narrow, it's like research into biochemistry right? So they went from like literally anything, send me a letter, to down into this like very narrow field, very strict processes, which is generally what all foundations were doing from 1906 all the way up until 2006 when Dr. Solomon gives me his presentation. One of the things that's very exciting to me, since 2006, I think philanthropy had enough of that approach and started to try to think, and they're very slowly starting to try to do better when it comes to their not just the rejection, but the entire process of the program. Many funders not doing better at all. Obviously, that's true. If you know one foundation, you know one foundation. But there are many who are making some efforts. Some of them are failing. Some of them are doing well. But to try to be more inclusive in their funding. I have had proposals rejected, believe it or not, and in fact, the last one I wrote got rejected. I applied to the K. Fritz Foundation in DC, and it was a really cool experience. They're one of the larger funders in DC, and some of the things they did, I applied to a grant from K. Fritz for a different organization, like 15 years prior to this, so I was able, and I vaguely remember how that went. Pretty much it was sort of the Dr. Solomon approach, pretty much non-responsive. We did not get that grant back then, and I basically had no communication whatsoever with anyone at K. Fritz throughout the process. In 2025, I attended a Q&A for potential grantees with the program officer that was going to be reading my proposal. She answered my questions. She answered the questions from the other grantees. She herself used to work at a nonprofit in DC that I'm familiar with, so we had a lot of shared language and understanding. After rejection, they offered a declination call. I got to have it with her directly. She gave me several pieces of feedback. Also, it was a fairly meta conversation for me. Normally, I'm the one talking to people about their rejected grants. And she sort of recognized that. We were able to have a very collegial conversation. K. Fritz is working towards, the K. Fritz family members are less involved now, and they're really working towards involving past grantees and applicants in their review process. I think that sort of thing is very exciting. Another thing I'm very excited about today is to eventually hear from all of you about some of your experiences with rejection. Those are my 3 stories. Oh, yeah. we have. I hope you enjoyed our time traveling experience. Margaret's going to talk a little bit about some of today's. We've got some resources to share. I do. And some interesting, which hopefully spawn some thoughts for you. And then we're going to want to go into some discussion about rejection.
Yes, please. Because I feel like we all have very unique and different experiences with rejection. I think very rarely do we have a K. Fritz example with being rejected from a grant. I certainly have not. That would be sweet if that was the norm. So if you go onto the interwebs and you Google like best practices around rejection or declination or grant funding or being a funder, you'll get a lot of resources from Candid. So shout out to Candid.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave.
And a lot of them, while they're great, a lot of them say the same thing. And the most recent one that I found that said anything slightly different was 2022. And it was actually written by an unfunded list evaluator she's been with us for a very long time. And she wrote this, like not related to us at all, but as an article for Candid. And in it, she and other folks before her who have written about rejection noted the current best practices are much the same as Dave mentioned from 2006, right? They're very short. So you've probably gotten all the same emails. You could probably copy and paste the templates of the emails that you've gotten on rejection. And if you went through them and put them side by side in a row, they probably looked a lot alike, right?
Sure they're all using the same verbatim.
Yeah, there's a boilerplate
literally
at NCF, National Center for Family Philanthropy, that almost everybody's using.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We can fund and
Try again later.
For more resources, please check out Foundation Center.
Exactly. Exactly. Sorry. It's true. Like
you're in a lot of rejection letters.
If you go online and you Google template, there are 10 templates, and they all say the same thing. And they're all like 4 sentences. They all say there's too many applicants, not enough money. Thank you. Everyone was so valuable. Their projects are all amazing. We wish we could fund you all. Please try again later. Our next round opens up in 6 months or whatever that is, right? They're usually short. There's very little information, and to the point where, to Dave's point earlier, they don't want to give you that information, right? If they did put in there some very specific notes about the sustainability, you would immediately tweak your proposal, submit it 6 months later, and anticipate that you're going to get that grant now because you've tweaked the thing they noted that was wrong. That's not usually how that works. But unfortunately, that is still the current practice for most of the funders. The one thing I really liked about our evaluator's candid article, and that I've seen more and more, like in KFRITS, are some of what I like to call ideal best practices. They may not be the current best practices. Well, people aren't really using them as much yet. But in an ideal world at present, this is more of what you would see. And it does include, number one, earlier notification of being rejected. So how many folks have heard over a year later that you didn't get a grant? Yep.
Most of the people have their hands up.
I know.
Great.
That is horrifying and sad, and I have been there.
A
Or
year.
how many of you never heard at all?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
You
I
learn
understand.
when they publish the
Literally.
list of
Yeah.
funded programs
You find
and
out,
you're
you're
not
like,
on it.
oh, guess I did.
Yeah.
If they publish a list. Exactly. So an ideal best practice would be, if the funder is going to say no to you, to let you know as soon as possible, right? Because, I mean, they've made this decision so much earlier. We partnered with one organization, and we knew
Yeah, that was tough.
6 months before they let the applicants know who had been accepted and not. And we were having calls with them, and I'm like,
Yeah, we had to get
"Don't say
feedback
anything.
knowing that they hadn't
Don't
gotten
say
it, and we
anything."
couldn't say anything.
It was really hard. So we all just need to move on with our lives, right? It's fine. I know I'm not going to get every grant that I apply for, and I would like to know I'm not going to get it before, next year, when half the time my program's already done, right? Like the thing I needed money for might already be passed at this point. So earlier notification, some sort of customized notification. I hear you, it gets tricky, right? And that's to the sustainability thing. You don't want to get their hopes up. But I think one way this could be super helpful is actually if the customization is especially around you are not a fit, right? How many times have you applied for something, or if you are a reviewer or a funder, you've gotten proposals, and in all honesty, they're just not close to the mark of what you're funding, right? Or you've tried to pigeonhole your own proposal into something. Oh, I've never done that. Never. I'm convinced I'm a fit for something, but I'm really not. It would be great for the funder to share, you know what, you just really weren't a fit for this, and that's okay. We don't want you to waste your time or our time trying again next time, because this is not going to work for either of us. Just let me know. Okay, I can handle it. I'm a big girl. I've been dumped before. So just let me know. It's me, not you. It's okay. We can move on. That would be nice. And then ideally, there would be a super nice statement in there, like the KFRITS one, where they do offer feedback. Now, this, it's not always going to happen. It's really hard. I recognize a lot of funders are small, so they may not have the staff to have the capacity to talk to you. I've worked for funders where we've had large staffs, and it's great. Like, yeah, everyone can talk to someone, take a handful of calls. A lot of times, a smaller foundation, it really is 1 or 2 staff members for the entire work of the organization, and they can't always do those 1 or 2 those calls with the applicants, right? There are a couple really cool examples that we've come across in our work. One of them is actually a Canadian funder, and the way that they get around, because today's point about sustainability, if you talk to someone and you're like, oh, our problem with your proposal was X, and they say, oh, I'm going to go work on X. Now, will you tell me I'll get it next time? They actually swap programs. So if I'm the health program manager and he's the education program manager.
Canadian foundation.
Canadian.
No health program.
Okay, fair. If I'm education and you are science.
Education.
They have science in Canada. There's science. They
fund
still
it,
fund
yes.
that. Sorry. So I'm education, he's science. We swap. So I'm going to do all the feedback for his science proposals, and he's going to do my education proposals. That way, he doesn't know maybe the specifics of my education programming, maybe why exactly some things went into it. He can talk to the proposal, he can talk to the general process of the organization and the funder, but he's not going to be the one reviewing them next time if they come down the road again. And the same for me. I'm not going to be the one deciding on science proposals next round. So that power dynamic that often happens with the funder and the grantee is a little bit lessened there, right? We both work for the same funder, but not in the same department. I'm not making decisions on his. He's not making decisions on mine.
But yet they are familiar with the process of how decisions get made.
You also see this a lot with federal funders. So how many in here have applied for federal funding? Yeah.
Yep.
So I guess one benefit to filling out the thousands of pages of paperwork to apply for federal funding is that they do often offer feedback, right? So yay. I guess that is a byproduct of getting to submit giant proposals, is that you do sometimes get really good feedback on that proposal. So that is, one time where a funder actually does provide some of that ideal best practice. But not everyone can do all of those things. And there are a couple of things that funders can do that are not directly in line with the declination itself. Again, they may not have staff time. It may be subjective and not objective. So federal funding is very objective. A small family foundation may be very subjective in why they gave money to one person and not another. And they don't want to say that out loud, right? I get it. Totally get it. But what are some things that they can do that you can look for also as a grant seeker on the front end and on the back end to learn more about why you may have not gotten funded or what you may be able to get in the future? One of them is what he talked about with K-Fritz, calls ahead of time, right? So webinars, blogs, videos, anything that that the funder can do on the front end of the application process to make sure that the grant seeker understands who the ideal applicant is, right? What is involved in the proposal, and really point out some of the pitfalls of the program so that you know ahead of time that you're applying for the right thing and you're answering the right questions. A couple of those on the front end. Also, to your point about not always knowing who gets the funding, highlighting grantees after the fact. So if you go to a funder's website and you do see who got money, and you're looking at them and you're going, okay, yeah, we did not fit. Okay, I get it now. That's super helpful as a grant seeker. I actually love going to see who did get funded by someone that I applied to, because I can see either A, can I tailor my proposal to highlight some of these things better, or B, find out very quickly that I actually wasn't as good a fit as I thought I was, right? So the funder can highlight who they actually have given funds to, and that's a huge benefit for the grant seeker. That doesn't require anything on their part in terms of feedback. Doesn't, no extra steps really. And then really, a webinar afterwards or some sort of video blog post, something after they've made the decisions. Again, kind of highlighting their own process, what they were thinking. If priorities changed for them during the round, maybe something happened in the climate, and they decided, they really wanted to focus on this type of organization or this very specific niche of the program, to let, again, the applicants know that, this is something that they to look out for next time. So those are a couple of things that funders can do, and you guys can look out for that are not direct feedback, but can help the funder identify better with the proposal authors, and as proposal authors, you guys to look for as you're applying for proposals. Yeah. Yay.
I would add something that I like, and I've been talking about a lot this week with folks. Funders should have the application it should be easier to take a look at.
Yes.
Often you have to create an account in their system just to be able to get in, and you have to go past the eligibility quiz just to be able to look at it. This is not any kind of best practice for anyone. I kind of understand why they're doing it, but you put the application form up there so folks can look at it and figure out if they're a fit up front.
And also what the time requirement is. I think, a lot of us, if it's a 2-question application, we're like, great.
You should know how long it takes people from when they first started filling it out to when they finish it, and you should be able to share that info. Lots of stuff technology can make that can be, like, by being transparent with their data,
True story.
should make things easier for them and for their grantees and applicants.
True story. But I want to hear from them.
We should reiterate the goals. That's what we're supposed to do now.
Reiterate them.
Okay, well, education on the evolution of declination practices. Check.
Yes.
We did that. Okay.
We discussed that.
Review of the current best practices, and I added in ideal best practices, not just current. I think did we do that?
Yes.
Correct. Cool. So now can we ask them? I want to hear from them.
Yes. Well,
Awesome.
Does anyone have any just burning thoughts
Before we-
in regards to what you've heard so far?
No.
Feel free. Anything?
95% of funders are doing it wrong.
I think I think you're being very generous to the funding community.
Who's it? I'm gonna know that 5% they're doing it right. Yes.
I heard a webinar from a funder and then spoke with a new young program officer at a funder. But the webinar said it can take up to 3 rounds to get accepted.
Yep.
So first rejections, keep doing it.
Yes.
Not 10 times. But. And then the young program officer said when you're doing your outreach, go for the fresher program officers because the older ones have their awardees or their client base.
Mm.
The young ones are trying to make a name for themselves.
Nice.
So they might be more open to talking.
Ooh.
And they're not going to have the institutional baggage or the like, here's how
Yep.
we do things type of
Yep.
mindset. And I'll say, my whole career, you try to pay attention. If first you see the job opening for a program officer position, right? Whether or not you're going to apply to it, make a mental note. There's going to be a new program officer, right? And then once they then figure out who they are, right? Because they will advertise the job search a lot more than the hire,
yeah.
right? So I generally send ticklers for myself. I also sort of think like, who do I know that would be a good fit? Maybe we can put a plant into there. Yes.
Yes.
So just a quick reminder, if you could repeat the question so that the people online
Yes, thank
can
you.
hear.
Thank you.
And also-
Yes, it wasn't so much. It was just sort of a share. But yeah, in my K-Fritz pre-call, I do remember them. So K-Fritz is the same thing. You really don't get a grant on your first application.
Yeah.
They said that, and she was sort of apologetic about it. But she's like, if you're a first-time applier, like she gave us the percentage. It was extremely low, and she said that most people have applied like 2.5 times by the time they get their first grant. And so that actually made it, when I got turned down, it was, it made me more likely to do the decline call because I understood all of that. And then she was pretty clear in the decline call that I think she would have told me not to apply again. But she said, these few things could be clarified and strengthened, and so I do think it's possible we'll be getting that. But yeah, sharing the info about what it normally takes in the past to get grants, that's very good. Thank you for that point.
Yeah.
Please.
I can't remember the name of the online, it's not really a blog, but it's an ongoing community conversation talking about which foundations
Thank you.
care.
Right. Yes.
Thank you.
It's Vuli. It's so she's. You want to repeat it into the microphone?
Thank you.
I don't want to tell everybody.
No, it's called.
There's an
Yeah, crappy funding practices.
crappy funding
yes.
practices,
There you go.
right?
Yes.
And,
Thank you,
and
Dave.
I found that very helpful for some of the foundations that we've been banging on the door. And then I realized, so have thousands of others, so I'm
Yes.
going to
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah, I follow it, and so she's talking about crappy funding practices. If you go into LinkedIn and look up that hashtag, you'll find a lot of interesting stuff. I do, and I think you're right. I think generally funders are doing it wrong, and I think the reason for that is because one, I think the first RFP was arguably only 120 years ago, so it's really not a very old field, and it's a field that has operated without accountability or transparency for most of that time. So they haven't really had any incentive to create some best practices. And so yes, you have a lot of family foundations that were created a long time ago, and the family just doesn't really care. They haven't made any effort to update their stuff, and so they've got a lot of really outdated things. I don't know if blasting them on LinkedIn is always the right approach, but it is funny. I am interested to see that sort of stuff, and I do think some foundations have been put on blast and then changed course. So that should certainly be commended.
Oh, go ahead. It was like a Reddit sort of thing?
Yeah, I see
Yeah.
it mostly on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn,
He,
yeah.
he has a website called nonprofitaf.com, and there's lots of really interesting stuff that I think everybody here would be interested to read.
They also were trying to have a anonymous website where you could report terrible funding practices. So
Yeah.
it wasn't just
Oh,
LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen, there have been various efforts about that. And in fact, we at Unfunded List, when we give feedback, one of our prompts is, do you have any feedback that is more for the funder than for the author? And when possible, we deliver that feedback to the funder. Sometimes when we work in partnership, we're able to do that. But I have found that that comment is also very helpful for the author to read.
Yes.
Because if they see that a bunch of experienced grant writers thought the RFP was flawed or the questions were confusing or something like that, that's good feedback for them as well. And so I'm actually really, that's one of my favorite prompts.
All right. I will say,
that
like,
we
a
have.
lot of folks, I mean, we have to all acknowledge in the last 20 plus years, things have moved very quickly. And so there's a lot of stuff to keep up on, but not just AI, just like tech in general, life in general. And so, you know, a lot of people just haven't had the capacity to adapt. You know, so a lot of these foundations might be 1 or 2 staff members, if that. And it's really hard to just keep up, I mean, with just everything happening so quickly. And to Dave's point about the funder question, that was actually one of my favorite stories to tell people, is that we do have a partner that they heard from our folks. We were able to share with them a report that said, our evaluators had these questions and comments about your application. And they were like, that's great, thank you. And the next round, they made the edits to their application because of what our evaluators were able to share. Oh, yes.
This is more of a comment, I guess, and I've had the range of really great funders and working with them through the process. My first time I ever applied was a community foundation, and she walked me through the whole thing, gave me feedback. It was awesome. But one of the things funders could really do is just put it at, if we only have limited capacity online, and state it so people understand there's a reason. People, if you give them the reason, they're a lot more understanding. But with technology today, even small foundations, that, you know, if they should invest in putting things on their website or using systems like, oh, here's a link to my 990, you can see who we funded. You don't even have to put a list on the website. Just put a link to say, here's a quick way to find out. I mean, there are little things they could do to make them a little more friendly appearing anyway versus cold-hearted, you know, because that's what they come across, is they don't care.
Yeah.
When I know that's really not true, but.
Yeah.
If they didn't care, they probably wouldn't be giving
Money
any
out.
grants at all.
No. I mean, I like the idea of people being really transparent about the ability that they have. I mean, like, on Funded List, it's mostly Dave. I help where I can. We have a handful of folks on the side, but like, I think we're also mostly transparent about that a lot of the time, is that we are limited in scope of what sometimes we can do, and I think more people could be transparent.
A couple things. First off, the LinkedIn crappy funding practices is totally anonymous, so I don't see the problem with sending crappy funding practices. Second, when I get those generic rejection letters, if you've got an email or someone you can reach out to, I ask specific questions. Was our request too high? Was our program too new for you? You didn't want to take a risk. And then the one I always love asking every funder, what grantees are you really excited right now about funding?
Nice.
Because then you can look at the
Oh, I like that.
characteristics
I like that.
they have and see how you can be more like them. And last, I'll say, I am very proud because I nominated Greater Worcester Community Foundation, who got Grant Maker of the Year yesterday.
Oh, congratulations.
And they have program officers you can go to in advance to find out if you're aligned with what they want, and they give completely. They will take the time to give the feedback and answer your questions, which is why they're Grant Maker of the Year.
They were the GPA Grant Maker of the Year, like yesterday morning.
Oh,
And what is the name? What are they called?
Greater Worcester Community Foundation.
Greater Worcester, like Worcester, Mass.
Yes.
Cool.
Oh,
Massachusetts, and I will tell you, there's one right up the road from their community foundation that needs to learn a lot.
oh, I really love the very specific questions, because I think we all will respond with, oh, is there feedback? Can you give me feedback? And if they're going to say no to that. So I love the idea of asking very specifically some things about the proposal.
If you, like a small family community or
Yeah.
family foundation often doesn't have an email, you can't do it. But if you've got an email or a phone number,
And on the amount side, so that was some feedback I got from Kay Fritz. I made kind of a rookie mistake and asked for too much. I should have known better. And she was clear around that. However, I do think that's kind of a tough thing. I think funders should be setting the amounts instead of being like, how much do you need? I need as much as you can give me. That's pretty much always the answer from every
then
single
you have the
grant
tax
seeker.
rules
And
that
like me trying to
say-
figure out what the right number to ask for that's an unfair thing to put on grant writers.
But there are good rules around
But I will
that
ask for less
based
when
on
I
budgets.
go back, I guess.
So budget size.
Um,
Yes, there was one over here.
Thank you, by the way, David. David
Yes,
got
I know,
drafted
thank
into
you.
service over here.
One of the other things that I think funders could improve upon is if they on their website and they talk about their mission and exactly what their criteria is, their guidelines, and it's just, and generally it's the same that it's been for a couple of 3, 4, 5, maybe even 10 years. And yet, when they do publish their list of awardees, you go down and look. And that's the key, of course, to who they awarded to see who and what they funded. They just, I don't think it ever occurs to them to go back and revamp their criteria, their guidelines, and even mission statement in some cases. I'm like, well, there's an AI that could do that for you, but that has been common for me. Just looking at, if they didn't publish the awardees, I'd just think, well, that was weird. We thought we were a fit.
Bless you. Thank goodness. Oh, there was one on the interwebs.
On the internet? An internet question?
Oh, that's right, the mic. Sorry.
How many folks are online right now?
There are 111.
Hi, everybody.
So I want to try to make sure that they're included.
Absolutely.
Okay, great, yeah.
So just a couple comments from Maggie. One, a hard no would be very, very helpful.
Yes. Yep.
Because she says a lot of foundations don't really say who they really want to fund. So just tell us no and let
Is
us
that
move
Maggie Perry? That's one of our evaluators.
on. Maggie Dennis,
Oh,
actually.
no, I don't know her. But great advice, Maggie.
And then the other thing is that also from Maggie is that we talked earlier about advanced feedback. In the long run, that would save the funders time.
Exactly.
I agree, yes.
Exactly.
So just wanted to get that.
Help us help you, right? Don't waste my time. Don't waste your time. Oh. Okay, sorry.
over there?
I promise.
Over there and back. We got plenty of time.
Yeah. Everybody.
So, has anyone else experienced people who have not, funders who have not got caught up with the times and you have to physically mail them things? Or
Yes.
print out 5 copies on this color?
Yeah. Yes.
Have you done that recently? 5 copies in different colors?
Oh, I mean,
Like 20 years ago, I did that.
I
And
had
I used to
had
have to
one.
deliver things like in person to the office.
I had one that was due by mail just like 6 months ago for a group that I was working with. It was not by color, so I didn't have that. But it was like you had to print it out and then sign it and then mail it in. And I still haven't heard back
It'd
from
be a
it,
good
so
way to
that's
cut
not
down
shocking.
on the number of applications you get, right? Just like we're no longer accepting them online. Please mail them to this address.
It's going to cut out a lot of people right there. Yes, my dear.
This is not my question, but I had one that was hand delivered, which was really obnoxious.
The rejection?
No,
Oh.
like we had to hand deliver the application.
Yikes.
Yeah, so I had a job, one of my early jobs in fundraising, and it was kind of a trick that we did. Is if it was in the area, I would go they would send me in person to drop it off. Because maybe I get a chance to talk to somebody,
that's fair.
I'm charming, like it's an extra touch point that you could have in the thing and make you more likely to be remembered at come decision time.
So here's my question. I think you're preaching to the choir a little bit, and we all know and agree that funders, for the most part, suck in what they're doing. What do we do about it? And how do we manage up and educate funders on how horrible they are making our lives?
So first I would say, I'm not sure I do agree. I don't think I would use the words horrible or say that they're bad. I think there are reasons for anything that's happening in the world, there are reasons for it. I don't think any funder wakes up and says, I want to do a bad job funding, right? It's just that I think probably the worst actors are family foundations. And the reason for that is that they're not businesses. their families. You think of they make decisions the same way your family makes decisions, right? Like, think of the last time your entire family had to unanimously decide something. I don't, maybe your family does that really well. But most of our funding has come from family foundations, and that's where most of my experience has been. And we did a co-review round once where we got to give some feedback to a family foundation, and like that, and they had one. They were not rather than their endowment is $3 billion. Most of the folks are sixth generation, so they're pretty removed from like the legacy. There's one administrator who works there. They give just a ton of grants, mostly to things they've been funding for 80, 90 years, right? And it's just they're not gonna change. There's no real impetus for them to change, and I'm not really sure what's gonna happen. And with that, I think, there's some things that we can do, right, to be like, and to be positive about it. I think when I started on Funded List, I might have used the word horrible when talking about funders. But I've been in a position where I have to I'm the administrator for a very large number of proposals that come in every year, and I have to make sure all of them are handled. And I know how much work it is to be on that side of things. And I do understand some of the stuff that Dr. Solomon said and all that. The things that encourage me now, there's a stat I heard recently, and so it's for the first time ever, as of like a couple years ago, more than 50% of family foundation CEOs are not related to the family. They're just professionals who have been hired to work at the foundation. KFRIS is moving towards having previous grantees and applicants be the ones to review proposals at their program. Lots of other foundations are doing that. Hiring program officers that are previous grantees is a great trend in the sector. And one of the things that we're doing at Unfunded List is expanding the number of trained proposal reviewers. Right, so family foundations do not need to rely on just their family members who may not really want to do it. Right? You can find members from the community who are very active, who are very passionate, who are very interested in reading grants and talking to applicants, and get them to support your program. I think that's one of the reasons why community foundations are some of the best funders. Generally they are, well, not generally, always they are place-based, and generally they involve volunteers from the community in giving those grants, and they just have a ton of incentive to be doing it better, which family foundations do not have. And I think they get more criticism than an individual donor gets. Individual donors do all these things, make decisions based off of emotions, off of other, like waste nonprofits' time. They do all of that stuff, right?
Yeah, but I don't have to write a 20-page application.
Yeah, they just, well, some of them make you do that. I've had to do that to individuals before. Generally, when but they're, they get to do it in private without a whole lot of criticism. That's why, and I think some of this stuff may force foundations, like these days, if you're starting a new foundation, you're probably just as likely to make it a DAF, which is even harder to do the research on or to approach, right? And we certainly don't want them to go into that direction. And while I do agree the processes are very frustrating, and I have talked to a very large number of rejected applicants about their frustrations, generally, with all of them, there is some sort of reason why what happened to them happened to them. Philanthropy is hard. The fundamental problem, going all the way back to 1906, is way too many people need money. So unless, not to get too socialist about it, but there's more than enough money, right? I don't think philanthropy has to solve all the problems. The entire society needs to reorder itself a little bit, and until it does that, I don't think foundations are going to be even possible to be perfect actors in the system. They're working in a very flawed system where they cannot possibly fund all of the potential applicants, and most of them are trying to do their best, I think, even when it ends up looking crappy or horrible or whatever we want to call it. And I do think there is a lot of value in commiseration, right? So I do think there's and certainly funders can afford to be made fun of. In my experience, they actually don't mind. I think the rich enjoy being satirized. And that's the point of satire. It's supposed to, comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable, right? And generally they're comfortable, so they can handle it. But yeah, I have been encouraged by the last couple decades as opposed to the century before that. And that's my short answer to your question.
I would say on a more practical level, or logistical things to do, steps perhaps. Some of the things we talked about before. So some of it does fall on the grant seeker. Unfortunately, looking ahead of time, making sure you are a good fit. Actually, believe it or not, answering the questions appropriately. I'm not saying you're not doing this. I'm just saying these are the trends that we see a lot when we review rejected applications. Is because when I'm looking at the RFP and I'm looking at the proposal that was submitted, so often, not only are they not a fit, but if they are a decent fit, they're not answering the question that the funder has posed. So they're answering the question they want to answer. And while that works on TV when you're being interviewed, it doesn't work as well for a proposal where there is a very specific question to be answered. So I think, unfortunately, some of it is on us as grant writers to make sure that we are doing the research ahead of time. We're applying for the right things. We're answering the questions that they're asking. And we are doing some research into, who we should be working with. On the flip side, it is also communicating with the funders that aren't doing a great job. If you sat through David's presentation just before this one, he mentioned that emailing back to ask for the feedback, maybe some super specific questions, and also sharing feedback about the process. Even if you don't hear back from them, does not mean they're not reading it. To the point about having so many of these foundations, especially small ones with very few staff, they may not be able to answer every single email or note or LinkedIn request or anything that they get, but hopefully they're still receiving them. So even if they're not able to tell you, thank you for your feedback, and we will take that into consideration. If they hear that over and over again from applicants, maybe they will post their grantees. They will host a webinar before and after the applications are due. They will do some of those ideal best practices. I guess it's just ideal practices. And so if we keep sharing that these are the things that we would like as a sector, as grant seekers, hopefully they will start to hear us and take some of those into account, even if we don't hear back from them right away.
And we do, when we work in partnership with funders, as she mentioned, we've been able to give them some feedback and seen them improve their approaches. We had the Family Foundation we worked with a few years ago hadn't updated their RFP since 1998, and it had all kinds of incorrect stuff in it. And they didn't know because they weren't really paying attention. So when we pointed it out to them, they were like, oh yeah, we can, that's something that we can do. And there's others that have been a lot more responsive to our thoughts. And I mean, compared to, I think 50 years ago, nobody would have even thought to do any of that or change anything based on any feedback. So,
yep.
Earlier, you talked about managing up or working up. When I don't hear from a funder in a while, we're pretty dogged about getting a phone number. And so...
very dog.
Wow, dogged. It's a great dog. She's calling a funder.
She means what she says.
I thought that was intentional. Then I'll call and I'll ask those specific questions. We haven't heard from you. We really would like to. If we're not a fit, please tell us, and then we won't waste your time trying to reapply again next year. If we are a fit and we've asked for too much, or they've done something else that you'd like to see different, please let us know. And I could say I get 5 to 10% response.
That's better than I would have thought.
Yeah, which saves both of us a huge amount of time.
Yeah.
So, that's something.
I work with Unfunded List. I also do some grant writing occasionally, and when I can, I do love to reach out to the program officer ahead of time. As you all know, you're all professional grant writers in this room. It doesn't always work. They don't always respond. They don't always allow that, obviously. But when and if it's possible, that is obviously ideal as well, to be able to talk to them ahead of time, just make sure you're fit. And if not, at least just tell me yes or no, right? If I haven't seen a list on your website yet of who's been funded, I haven't heard from you in 6 months or a year, just tell me, please. I have a tracker over here. I've got to do something with it. I need to delete it or move it on. It's killing me to have it outstanding.
I have heard from funders, and they've asked me, this is something that may be difficult to hear, but I've had funders ask me, why are grant seekers so annoying? I've had more than one ask me that. Yeah. And one of the things that I think they fail to understand is that person's doing their job. Their boss is telling them, bother them until you get a response. So, it's their job. They're literally getting paid to do this. So, Like and I think many of them are trying to do the like, let's ignore them until they stop bothering us approach, and those two things are gonna like, it's just sort of not really going to work along.
An online question?
A comment from a funder.
Yay.
Wonderful.
Score.
Do we have a phone number for this one?
Danielle says, it's hard to hear from the audience that funders are terrible.
Aw.
Some of us are trying our very hardest to fulfill our mission, often tied to our family members' legacy, and provide as much information as possible to grantees. We update our website every year with more information and feel like a lot of grant seekers simply do not read everything we provide.
True.
Thank you, Danielle, for doing that. Actually, thank you for updating your website and doing some of the things we've just been talking about, because that is key, honestly. We're not talking about you.
Yeah. She's an exception, clearly.
You're one of the 5%, not the 95.
I was just going to share something really quickly. I think there's been 3 occasions when I've been working on an online application and there's been some kind of a glitch or technical problem with their application.
Oh.
And I have reached out to their appropriate person just to let them know, FYI, in a sense of cooperation. I just wanted to point this out so that in case other funder or other applicants are having issues with this part of the application. And all 3 times that I did that, they wrote back and said how much they appreciated the input because they weren't aware of the flaw. So if you ever see that, I would encourage you to reach out and let them know.
And there are flaws in, like sometimes you might see the flaw in the app and you assume you're just doing it wrong. Like, no, a lot of these application forms have very serious errors with them. As somebody who looks at a lot of applications every year, very few of them are like flawless systems, so.
Yes.
Forgot my question.
Take a moment.
It's Friday, it's fine, it's Halloween. Take a moment, it's all good.
Oh, yeah. So a lot of us are consultants, and we have clients, we try to train them. They want to win right away. We try to train them that we need to train them. We need to help them build capacity. They need to understand the grant process. We need to do outreach to the funders if possible, and all that takes time, and then we can apply, and then they get a rejection. So what can we tell them to soften that blow?
That's,
we get a lot of folks who send us proposals for review, and they had unrealistic expectations for what was going to happen. And I tell them that you had unrealistic expectations for what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I have a couple anecdotes I use often. A typical rule of thumb that I try to tell people is from the moment you identify a funder who is a good fit to the moment you cash that check is probably 3 years. Get that into your head. Maybe it'll happen faster, but it should be in your head that it's probably 3 years. These are deliberative bodies. They don't change their timelines. They're designed to be thoughtful, long processes, and it can't be advanced. We do lots of particularly passionate young entrepreneurs, right? I need this money now. They've written their plan out. Like they really, and that's great. You want to do it in a way I think that doesn't diffuse their passion, but and I think I actually really like the idea of training your clients for declination early in the process. Is that something that it's a very clear, we're going to train you to be declined for these? I'm very interested in that. And that's something that a lot of you are doing? Cool.
I was about to say something similar. I didn't say 3. I tell clients from the time that you identify a prospect, 12 to 18 months before you get a check.
Well, you're better than me.
So, but I tell, if you need money now, then grants is not the right way for you to raise money.
That's why, your grants are one of multiple parts of your fundraising portfolio, right? There's individuals, there's sponsorships, there's events. There's so many ways out there to get funding that are not grant related. And to your point, if you need it now, this is not the way you're going to get it.
I was also going to say, the very, very best practices, one of my favorite grant makers, they don't have a portal. They don't make you, they say, if you have a proposal that you've written for some other funder, just email it to us. And they just say, make sure you change the name, because they say our board doesn't really like it when they see some other foundation
Yes.
in the name.
Sure, fine. Oh, no, I do like that because I do submit a lot of grants, and the portal part is the part that usually stumps me, and the part that makes me the most anxious, right? Because, well, in fact, there's one for a group I work with that's due on a Monday in December, and I'm already prepping them to start it on Thursday because I know that system's going to go down sometime between Thursday and Friday, and I have slight trauma after other times when it's gone down, and then I didn't get to submit because I went past 5 o'clock, and no one was there, and I missed the opportunity. So now, yes, anything I can do to avoid some of those systems make me very scared.
I am curious to know, particularly for those of you who've been grant writing for a while, right? Over the last, another thing that's happened since I started 20 years ago is there's way more, like you almost always submit online through some, and there are like several competitor companies that allow funders to create portals for them. What is our general thoughts on these portals? I have found them, I preferred the days when I was hand delivering them. Because the printer, unless if the printer worked, that was really the only technical challenge I could run into. But is anyone having, particularly if you've got a positive experience, I'd love to hear that.
I mean,
but,
have you seen Office Space? Printers can still be
listen
an
to the
issue.
negative ones as well.
Yeah.
Dave, you want to get on mic?
Oh, online.
Is there an online question?
Well, just a couple. We heard from someone else who, as she said, she works on both sides of the fence.
Yes.
And tries to manage the process with kindness.
Kindness, very important.
Thank you.
Yeah.
On both sides.
And I'm sorry, the person who shared, Danielle, shared her foundation information. So you can I'll share that
Everyone jump on it.
afterwards. To your portal question, Maggie says portals are getting way worse. Jana does not like Amplifon, so just some feedback.
Wow, very specific.
Did you?
There was one back. Oh,
Sorry, we just one microphone.
sorry.
You can be next.
Hi. No, I was actually going to echo what they just said. There are multiple portals where I used to log in. I would have every single grant request that I had submitted to them. Now they're all evolving, they're updating, supposed to be better, but they are so much worse, and the history is gone.
Huh. Interesting.
Yes. The lady in the second row?
Yes.
Yes.
My only question about all these portals is why such the high level of security? Really?
Yeah.
Is anybody going to hack into their system and find out what?
I am very
dying
confused
to see
by
what I submitted for an organization.
Oh,
We have
good.
a
We have
potential
an
answer
Ooh,
in
an
front of
answer.
you.
Hooray.
I live in Ohio, and we work with Columbia Gas a lot and a couple other big funders. And I flat out asked, I'm just getting back into grant writing, and I'm like, I can play the dumb card. So I flat out asked, and she said, we are getting hacked. They have people submitting fraudulent proposals with account money, and they have to spend hours going through and weeding out the ones that are not legitimate. Because I asked the exact same thing, because coming back into the field after being gone and with a company that's got an established grant writing practice, I'm like, how many times do I have to change a password and the two-factor authentication when you change people? I was losing and I couldn't figure out which website to be on. And then I would get in one time, but not the next time. And I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. And I felt the same way for a minute, like, let me go back to paper. I hate paper, so I couldn't really do that. That means filing, and filing is, but that's what they told me. It was because they are getting all these fraudulent people doing stuff. And I assume you take another step with that. I'm sure it's the hackers and all of that. So that was the answer.
I don't know how the scams work, but so I get pretty much every day someone emails me a proposal, and I don't know what these. And I used to write back, and I'm like, here's the form. I can't accept them by email, but they never write back. It's clear to me they're trying to scam me in some way. I just don't know. I'm not. I'm not a narc. I'm not really that's not what I'm trying to do. I just want to review people's actual grant proposals. So it's one of the reasons why we charge a fee to avoid that problem. But that leaves the system a lot easier to use.
I think one of the things that I don't like about the portals is, well, character counts or words, it's annoying, but it's like the exact opposite of submitting a grant, double space, 1.5 space, single space, in the margins, 12 font. They have all these parameters that you have to do, yet when you do it online, I mean, copying and pasting, your bullet points disappear and you have to go back and reformat it. When I print it out for my own copy, I'm like, how do they read this? It's so small. It's like, why don't you just upload, okay, give me my word count, give me my parameters, and then upload the documents so the person can read it. Is like, to me, it just defies why you're doing this, because it's...
And one of the interesting things that we've learned by working with some funders and listening to them talk about their online application systems, and in fact is the same with ours, our own questions for our matrix, is the questions are not always read in the same order that they're asked.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that, as you guys are filling out forms and you're like, how can I be better about some of these online portals, is not referencing see above or as I mentioned or, below, because...
As I've outlined below.
Because to your point about like copying and pasting and like where things go, they may not be, and you print it out.
The reviewer sees them in a different order and then it looks insane to them.
Yes, and so there's one that I submitted, and it's not a family, it's a corporate one. But it's, you upload the proposal, but you also have to fill in, you can just take components from the proposal and fill in the boxes, because that's just information. It seems a little repetitive, but you have to be careful just copying and pasting that. You've got to sometimes reword it, because again, you have to define it because you don't have that much space. It's answering the question, but in a smaller space. So
I've seen some where the the way that the form counts characters is different than how Word counts characters.
Sometimes it says one
And I'm
thing
like,
and it allows
we
more
can't
than-
even agree on what a character is.
And these are all reasons you could get rejected.
It's like, I should be a 34 in all pant sizes, but it's not always.
Oh, and you're a guy, come on. Oh, yes. I think you had your...
Up to you, David.
Yeah, go for it.
I trust you.
What's it worth to you? No.
As much as I hate the Salesforce customized portals because they're always broken, we had a funder who recently we had submitted a proposal just by email because that's how they work, and then we talked to them, and then we were exchanging paperwork back and forth, and in the middle of that, our CEO got a DocuSign that looked to, like, everything about it looked like it should have come from that funder. Like, we were in the middle of the process, and except the title of the document was weird. So she emailed me and she said, "What's this?" And it turns out that was spoofed. But like, if it had been in the portal, I could have gone in and looked in and said, "Oh yeah, that's the document." But because they mostly do it through email, they didn't have that level of safety. We didn't have that level of safety. But the return email was right, the signer's name, like everything else on it was right. And so the portal does provide, to your point, that extra layer of safety.
And I would never DocuSign anything without a human telling me to do it. Yeah. They come into my inbox pretty much every day. But yeah, it does sound like there are some of the security concerns are real. And so I guess that's why they're moving to these systems.
Let's talk about footnotes.
Sure.
Because I like to substantiate my claims. Evidence-based research, the risk, the evidence of the problem.
I think some funders will like that very much, and
so
others
so in the
don't want
portals, you
that.
can't do footnotes.
Right,
It won't
usually.
accept it. So sometimes we revert to inline citations. So I'm wondering, from your point of view, and perhaps the funder who is online, do we just not use citations anymore because of those portals? Inline, but then you have to, where do you provide the full? You can't. Inline, you always have to provide your references cited.
Yeah.
But there's no space, you just don't.
I just put the
Inline.
the name of the research company that I'm pulling from. Like, we do a lot of government funding, so I'll list the person or the entity and the year that it came from, and I'll quote.
So author and year inline, but not the full citation anywhere. Any feedback from you?
I mean, and for like foundation grants, like I'll write a lot of them and say, like, if I'm quoting Pew, right? per the Pew Charitable Trust survey on blah, 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 they say X, Y, and Z. Or per the Fairfax County census data number, blah, blah, like all those sort of things. Like I do try and stick it in the sentence somewhere. And, of as few characters as possible.
Well, yeah, I think often you have to do less than ideal formatting to fit into the character limits and the wonky form that they put forward. And I would agree. So my mother is the first proposal reviewer I ever recruited for the program. She's a PhD as well. And this has been, every time she sees an incorrect footnote, she calls me to tell me about it. 11 years later.
Drives her crazy.
I get a lot I always answer when she calls.
I actually have a positive experience with
Great.
the portal.
Yay!
Wonderful.
So I work for a city municipality in Nevada, and our state systems were hacked recently. I'm talking like DMV, all sorts of major hack. This happened in August, and we're still having problems. The portal that I worked with was absolutely flawless, never touched. We had absolutely no problems submitting, accepting. Our programs have rolled out, and yet there's other departments who are still having issues. So there is good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys ever been to any of the conferences for grant makers?
Yes.
I would love to hear.
Actually,
I know.
So I've been going to.
Seriously,
I was a baby philanthropist. I've been to a very large number of funder conferences.
So lately,
we went to
thinking about your
Exponent last year. I
Could
go to
you give
Jewish
us
Funders
maybe
Network.
some insight of what they would like?
So I saw Dr. Solomon a couple years ago at the Jewish Funders Network conference, and I went up to him to tell him that I was like, "Are your ears burning? Because I've been, talking about you for a little while." And he still feels the same way about it. Generally, it's the power dynamic issue for him. He's like, they're always awkward, especially with him. He's just a big. I have been the very first funder conferences I went to. Long story short, I got some bar mitzvah money and decided to give it all away through my family foundation. So I was 14, 15, going to some of these conferences with my grandmother. Those original ones, a long time ago, 30 years for me, if you told my grandmother that you could give her feedback and that she could become a better funder, she would have been thoroughly confused at what you were talking about. How could you possibly, all of the checks arrive at the grantees, how could she possibly be any better at funding than she is? Like, it was just this is another generation, she's several generations ago, like it's just a very different way of thinking. She was giving back, and everything she did was great. And you really would have gotten nowhere trying to tell her ways she could improve with her funding. I am different. You can tell me how I can do better, and I think from my experience talking to other next-gen philanthropists, I am not, I have wasted all of the money running this for the last 10 years, but some of my other friends who are still in the position of giving those grants, they're doing what Danielle is doing online. I think the next generation is very enthusiastic to me. One of the conferences I went to most often is something called Nexus, which I wouldn't go to now. They've lost their way, but for a very long time, it was a really great place to connect with other next-gen philanthropists. And I would say there, compared to some of the older funder conferences I've gone to, much more exciting and enthusiastic conversations. I do want to give some of the old heads some credit. There's a lot of folks that have been in philanthropy for a long time who have been consistently improving the field as well. Our program officer from MacArthur retired a couple years ago after a very long career in philanthropy, very, very slowly improving the MacArthur Foundation and probably some other places. There is right now, this year, they're talking about how to deal with federal cuts. They're talking about AI and how they're all getting, the K-Fritz lady told me she got 400 applications last March compared to 200 the March before that and 100 the March before that. So that's a big thing that they're talking about, how to deal with this massive increase of proposals, legislative changes,
yeah.
budgeting stuff, a lot
I
of the
mean-
same stuff you do here, indirect cost seminars, like
I mean, we did a discussion similar to this at a funder conference last year.
Yes.
And actually, the questions in the room were a lot of the same questions that you guys have. I think there's honestly just some disconnect to some extent in communication. They want to do better, and you guys want them to do better, and they are trying. I mean, again, the ones that we've spoken to, and the ones that I've worked more closely with, are trying to adapt. It does not happen overnight. I mean, some things can. There are some things that can happen overnight, and some things that cannot. And there are some who are very eager to figure out how to do this better. In the midst of an entirely changing climate constantly, not just what's happened this year, but like everything is constantly moving 100 miles an hour, and they're trying to keep up with not only this sector, but their own like internal processes and everything else. So I think they are trying to some extent. But they are also listening, hopefully, to us. We are going to the ones that we can go to and saying, hey, people want to be declined better. Please do a better job with this. Here's what we're hearing from grant seekers. Please take this information and do better.
I'm doing a presentation in 2 weeks at the Exponent Philanthropy Conference on improving your grant applications. So thank you for the focus group. I really appreciate it.
Terrific. You'll enjoy it.
Oh, say hi for us.
Good crowd.
So a question from Claire. Are there other ways to cultivate and sustain a partnership with funders who decline an application? If they aren't willing to fund us, are they willing to help in other ways, such as writing letters of endorsement or opening doors to other funders?
I mean,
maybe. I do. I mean, one thing I say, I think the thing I probably say the most often to folks is, if you know one foundation, you know one foundation. So very often these questions are difficult to answer. If you're working in an area, let's say you run an after-school program, and the largest funder of after-school programs is a place-based funder in your town, and you're continuing to run an after-school program where they are also funding other after-school programs, there will be many ways for you to continue to maintain a relationship with either with their grantees or with them themselves by being an active member of the community where they are funding. Right? If you are trying to raise money for a health organization in the Congo, applying to a fund in Geneva, you're going to have a very hard time maintaining that relationship after declination. And and in many cases, probably not even like if they've made it clear it's a no, probably worth spending your time on other prospects. But again, it's really going to matter on the specific.
It can happen though. I mean, I've had it happen.
Worth looking into.
It's worth it,
in each case.
if might as well reach out and ask if you think it's a good fit. I think she was, and then her.
Do you have a favorite foundation in terms of clarity of website and application? So if I like to, for instance, I show my clients the Hearst application. I think it's very, very clear and they're very good questions, hard to get. But do you have other examples of really clear websites and clear applications?
Yeah, that's a good question. Huh.
I should.
It's
a question I should be able to answer.
I mean, to their point, like I work with a lot of
They
community
change so
foundations.
often, is the thing. So I wouldn't. There are some that I can think of that aren't like that anymore. I don't know, do you?
I mean, I was just thinking of some of the ones I work with most frequently. I live in the DC area, so a lot of my funders are in the DC area for organizations that I either volunteer with, I'm a board member for, or just happen to know and help with grant writing. And around our area, the community foundations actually sometimes have some really great websites. They host webinars, a plethora of them ahead of time. They offer one-on-one consultations ahead of time. They do have a login, but they have a draft of the application you can download as a PDF before logging into anything, which is great. When you do log in, to your point, someone said it earlier about previously you've been able to see all of your previous submissions. They have that. So I can see every submission this organization's had in the past 20 years to the Community Foundation and this area. The whole grant process is done through that portal. Their application is pretty simple. I mean, it asks the appropriate questions. It asks what I'm doing, why it's important, like all the relevant stuff with character counts that are enough but not onerous. So it doesn't require that I try to smoosh my mission into 10 words or less, but it doesn't require that I include 10 pages of information just to apply. So I think Northern Virginia, Community Foundation Northern Virginia is one of them.
They're almost certainly the best ones are going to be mostly community foundations, I think, because of what I was saying before. The main community foundation, I know I'm not a fit because I learned in the Q&A that they had for us, which I appreciate. I didn't have to waste time applying to them, but as a Mainer, just in general, I appreciate that they're doing such a good job funding in the state there. I know the DC, the community, they changed their name. It's with
there's
Greater Capital
Greater
Region,
Capital Area.
That one's a pretty good one as well. They're generally doing a good job.
There you go.
Variety of words.
I'm in DC, but most
Greater
of in
DC,
Virginia,
Washington,
so
bigger foundation for.
And we had another. There we go.
I had a unique experience with a funder, and it was because of the relationship. They said they had 230 applications. We had just received an award from them, and we said, we're a shoo-in. We're going to get our 400,000. No problem. Big rejection. But I said, I'd like some feedback. You just gave us an award. And we expected it. And she said, we're not giving feedback because we had so many applications, but because of your relationship with us and you're considered a trusted partner, we were able to give you the feedback that you needed. And that, I think, is really important. I said to you before, though, the opposite is true, because it's don't contact us, I don't want to hear from you again, don't darken my door, and don't ask any questions. And that, I find, is becoming more the norm, and perhaps being facilitated by the online portals, which I kind of like the online portals. There are things I don't like about it, but I don't like the fact that it's created this sort of anonymity, this barrier that they put up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can you just to the earlier question about how to build relationships with funders? How did you establish that? Is there anything in particular you did to establish that trust?
This is a relationship that our executive director is very much hands-on involved. And in fact, I just got an email today where we learned in advance that the committee had approved it, and most likely the board is going to approve a local, it's a local grant. But because she's very well known in the community, where she can't help me is she can't help me with the nationals, she can't help me with the big regionals.
It's that she's made herself unavoidable, and that now the people who work at the foundations have reason to have
a relationship, and it really pays off. We're very well supported by our local community.
Yeah, great.
That's awesome. We had,
online?
There was the minion. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Do we have?
I think.
First the minion. Put on a costume. Is there anyone online wearing?
She's had her hand up for a minute.
To go back to the portals, compared to the paper applications, it seems like on the portals the questions are redundant. They're asking like 3 or 4. That's my pet peeve, and I get it. It's a family foundation, and they might have a specific budget template. Fine, that's fine. But I'm just thinking, I'm trying to get into the psyche of why is this? Are they trying to make sure it's not cut and paste? I get that, but is there like they have to ask so many questions for the portal subscription? I was just curious I'm just trying to get to the why, because after like the 4th or 5th time, I'm thinking, how do I see number 2? Like I had one recently. It's like, oh, well, just go back to question number 2. It's the same exact question, but maybe one sentence is tweaked.
Very common.
It's very
Is that so?
So we gave that was in the.
That was literally feedback we gave.
We gave feedback to that Giving Circle a couple years ago. Several of our evaluators thought that a couple of the questions were basically the exact same question. They were like slightly differently worded. And when we went to we had a good relationship with the organizers of that funding program, and it was really interesting. They were just they were trying to write questions that they think should be in a grant proposal. These were first time. It was a young group, first time funders. They were just trying to put in all the questions that they think are supposed to be asked. And all it took was for us to be like, I don't think you need to ask both of these. And they cut
took it out.
one of them.
They're like, you're right. Actually, now
It just may be that they think a lot of people are faking it until they make it. They didn't necessarily right? And it's just, what, we have to put a proposal together. What questions should we ask, right? And then maybe one family member wanted to say it this way, and the other one said it this way, and they just put them all in there. And no one has said anything. No one, again, people don't really tell them that their form is wrong that often, so.
Yeah. Yes, don't overthink it. Yeah, the online.
So just two things. Catherine suggested the Max and Victoria Dreyfus Foundation.
Oh, that is a
as
They are a good one.
They are a good
DC
one.
One of the
area
good ones.
funder.
Yes.
Yep, another DC.
Yes.
Yep.
And then Margaret asked, are funders talking about trust-based philanthropy?
Yep.
Yes.
I went to CGI a couple weeks ago, and there was a funder-only session that they didn't let me in. That was about trust-based philanthropy. It's a question I'm getting increasingly from funders. Usually they're asking me, like, what is it? And there was, I know Exponent, it was a big, and particularly, like, if they are the type of funder, I mean, that's let's say 95% of them are tragically flawed programs, right? They're not the ones going to Exponent or they're not really doing anything to improve. They still have my grandmother's approach where they assume everything is, they're giving money away. So, like, it's just their mindset is, this is like, what I'm doing is a great thing, no matter how I do it, right? And that's still, but those folks aren't going to Exponent. They're not attending trust-based philanthropy sessions and stuff. And I do think the bigger, more active, staffed-up foundations, most of them are familiar with trust-based philanthropy and doing at least some of the principles in there.
And I would say that, especially for some of the smaller ones, and I also work with a lot of giving circles around the country.
Yeah, big deal with giving circles.
They're really trying to lean into trust-based philanthropy as long as they figure out what it is. I think that's also a piece of it too. Is you throw this word out there, or this phrase, it's not a word, and no matter what you Google, like, you could get 15 different descriptions of what trust-based philanthropy is. So there's a lot of people trying to do various components of trust-based philanthropy. So what it looks like in your head may not be the same thing that it looks like in a funder's head. And they may be making strides towards that. They may be having general operating funds and maybe whatever those pieces are, there are lots of pieces to trust-based philanthropy. And so, like, just keeping that in mind too, when someone says they're engaging in this, they may be engaging in a part of it and not the entirety, because it does encompass a lot of various things, some of which I probably don't even know about because it's a lot.
It's a simple list of like 5 or 6
Things,
principles.
yeah.
Like, it is defined. But there was an article I read a little while ago, and it was a funder who was like, my foundation abandoned trust-based philanthropy, and here's what happened next. It's some version of that. If you Google it, you'll find it. So, if you actually read the article, you'll see what he did is trust-based philanthropy. Like, he didn't understand it in the first place, and what he does now is he's now doing trust-based philanthropy. And there's lots of misconceptions like that. Right. Did we reach the end of time?
Oh, no, we have one question, and then we'll have to wrap up.
If this is an off-base question, I'll just shut it down.
Ooh, this is my favorite.
But it's a public funding question.
Okay.
Great.
So we just recently went through an application process from the City of Columbus where we, in order to be eligible for submittal, we had to provide 2 peer reviewers.
Oh.
And so there were like 100 and some applications. Of course, it's City of Columbus. It's a human services type thing. And you had to go through a brief period of, what's the right word, where you don't want to show that you have a favoritism. What's the word?
Bias.
Conflict of interest.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Conflict of interest, and we're still waiting on an answer. But has anybody done that before? So, like, my coworker and I each had to. Now, I won't lie, I was super excited to read other people's applications. It was delightful, but it was another 10 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had to review 10 applications. We were allowed to get everything, including their budget. Like, they said, well, if you need the extra information, you can ask for it. And I'm like, oh, I'm sure I have questions. I'm asking for it. I just am curious, has anybody else done that?
So the $100 million Lever for Change, whatever, at MacArthur requires peer reviewing in the first round. And I think I really don't like it. They're trying to make it a more inclusive program, involve the peers in the decision-making process, while also alleviating their own administrative burden, which is, I'm sure, part of it. But, like, I don't know, you're making, they already wrote a proposal for you, and now you're making them do work, and you're not there was no compensation. If they were going to pay you to do the peer review, then I'd be, great, cool, aspect of the program, right? Trained reviewer experience while you apply for these programs. She's giving away $100 million, so I imagine they can afford to compensate the reviewers maybe, right? But Roddenberry did a thing with peer review, and there was a lot of complaints about it because they felt they were being overworked on it. They're coming at it from this will make it more inclusive while alleviating our administrative burden. It sounds like a win-win for them. And they're not really thinking about that it's a lot more work for you to do it. And I just don't, I'm not going to be a fair reviewer of the people competing against me.
That's,
I can't do it.
I work for the police department in my city, and we apply for a state grant for law enforcement. And I actually find it really exciting. I wrote a program or a grant for a software, but I then reviewed canine specific grants.
That kind of makes sense.
Somebody included a picture of their dog in a tie, was give them all the money they want.
Yep.
That could make more sense because you're not. It's kind of like the Canadian example. You're not reviewing your direct competitors, right?
So yes, we want to be a little picky, but I swear to God, we tear these people. We all do it. We all do it to each other. We tear them apart.
Yeah.
Because we want the best application for. We want to be the best,
Sure.
And it's not a big pot of money, but it is. We've had more and more applications every year, and I will say, I think with the help of the AI, our small, very, very small rural communities are writing much better applications.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Because
it helps us as reviewers to evaluate them fairly. And yes, it is a bigger task, but it also is all voluntary for us. They ask us if we want to do it. And,
It was required. The MacArthur thing was required. The Mackenzie Scott, you had to peer review in order to apply, which I felt that was off base. Yeah, they're all going to know each other.
Yeah, and so I love the conversation, and I love how this is taking us all the way back to reviewing proposals.
Yeah, if you're looking for proposal review experience, you go to unfundedlist.com, you click that Join the Evaluators button.
Yeah.
And I will personally give you some proposals to read.
If you find that sort of thing
probably won't be
interesting.
they probably won't be competitors.
No.
But maybe.
It is something to your point, you can learn a lot by doing it, right? So the folks that you're reviewing, you can learn some good things to do, some not so great things to do. Like I said, we don't have a lot of competitors for each other, so you're just learning the best practices across the fields, which I think is.
I do think increasing the number of trained and experienced proposal reviewers is one of the best trends in philanthropy right now, and can only improve not just the one foundation but all of them. The more of us have experience reading proposals and understanding the process, the better it's going to be. I think for a long time, none of us really knew what was happening behind the closed doors, and that's why it seems so confusing and mysterious.
Yep. So I will happy to stick
everybody.
around and answer more
Thank
questions.
you to the online community and our online facilitator.
Time.
And David, our microphone assistant,
Thank you.
our gaffer.
Thank you.